It is halftime right now. Creighton leading Oregon 36-34. Nick Handley in Omaha, Connor Happer in Pittsburgh as Creighton now 20 minutes away from getting to the Sweet 16 and taking on what we now know officially would be Tennessee. And Connor, I got to start with this. If Creighton just hits a few more shots, man, this thing is ugly. And I got to give Akron some credit. The way that they D up, and I know this is a matchup zone. This is something that Dana Altman is known for, but the amount of easy, and I'm not saying even good, but easy looks that Creighton has had tonight, that they've got a few that have fallen, but not that many. That's why this game is close. Otherwise, this thing would be a blowout in favor of Creighton.
Yeah, I would be. I tell you what, though, you're going to have nights like that, and if you got one in the NCAA tournament, then you got one in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, you're right. Like, if they just make a couple of those really good looks, what are they, 5 of 23 right now from three?
6 of 23.
If they 6 of 23 because Ashworth made that last one. So, obviously, if they get those to go, we're talking about a different deal right now. They could have probably, thrown a really big haymaker in the first 6 minutes of that game and failed to do so. But I think for them defensively, you got to figure something out on Cousinard. And Kalkbrenner picked up the cheap foul early and, got one down there too. So for them, it's just Cousinard and Dante. So they have to figure something out on Cousinard. I know it kind of goes against their principle. Like, they like to keep everything in front, and the pressure is tough. But you got to chase that guy around right now because he's single-handedly keeping him in the game. So it works. It works on both sides. Obviously, it's a different story. Maybe you break their spirit a little bit if you could make some threes right out of the gate there. But their spirit's not broken. Creighton's a little. For the second game in a row now, they're a little bit frustrated. I think just trying to get in the right spot defensively. They're losing guys on defense, and obviously, the frustration only builds when you can't make shots on offense. So they got to figure out a way.
This is where I love the experience of Creighton, though, too, because you're right. In a similar situation, even though that they hit a couple shots at the end in that first half against Akron, they were – I think they were pretty confident. I think they know that, hey, they just had to kind of work out the kinks a little bit. It's an experienced group. They've been through this before. They've had some shooting droughts. And every time we hear Mac talk about it, he's not discouraging them. I mean, they're going to continue to, as we know, let it fly. And that's going to happen in the second half. What's so interesting about this game so far, Connor, is you could see the emphatic nature between Dana Altman, between Cousinard and everybody to slow it down because they got caught up in Creighton's pace and they were trying to slow it down. I mean, it's like watching a tired heavyweight boxer clinching up and then flicking a few jabs in there to try to get a couple runs here and there, but they want nothing to do with that pace. So I think that is going to be so interesting in the second half to see if Oregon is successful in slowing it down and really forcing Creighton to play almost the entire shot clock per defensive possession. How Oregon, first and foremost, if they can be successful in those offensive sets, but if that starts to create a little antsiness from Creighton, if a little sense of urgency from Creighton, because then that's going to start limiting their offensive possessions, because you and I have both seen it. Every time you're seeing Mac point out the other way, getting those guys in transition and trying to get down there so fast that they cannot match up in that matchup zone. It's been successful. It's just quite simply they just haven't hit as many shots. But the pace and I think what both of these coaches are trying to really dictate right now is going to be interesting to see in the second half.
No doubt. Oregon has, they're lost in transition for sure. So it's a double-edged sword because I think you're right. You got to keep doing it and you got to keep preaching it and hopefully a couple more go. And, they started to open it up a little bit, but what scares me is if it stays close and they do, slow it down on their offensive end, which is definitely what they're going to try to do. They have the personnel to do that. They're built like one strong guard. It's Providence. It's St. John's. Yeah. They have the one guy. Creighton's not doing a good enough job on Cousinard right now, and that's kind of the deal. I think the bench. You got the stats in front of you. I don't, but look at what Jason Green has done. It's 6 boards already. He's got like a career high in rebounds. Bello hit a 3. Who else am I missing off the
Isaac
bench?
Trout's in there. Isaac Trout came in as well.
Trout got beat on Dante on the one play. They tried to sneak an extra minute for Kalkbrenner. Trout got beat, and then he made it, miss a 3 on the other side. So, but if they can that extra couple possessions that Jason Green gave him in the first half were huge. Momentum plays as well, and Creighton, can't keep running themselves into bad. They've gotten into some bad spots on offense too. So I think they're a little afraid of going in there on Dante, understandably so. So I think you're right. Like that's kind of what it has to be for them. They have to kind of just hope they start going. And I wish there was another. I wish there was another sort of thing that they could do. They had a really great look on the set. Baylor made it look like a shot from the top of the key, and it ended up being a lob to Clark-Brenner. I mean, that was unbelievable. That was a great play.
Yeah.
So maybe a couple more set stuff like that, and get them out of rhythm. But man, just if they can keep doing the same things, I hope but it's going to be close. It's going to be close. And then what scares me is they have the personnel to be able to kind of beat you one-on-one. If Creighton doesn't get figured out on Cousinard, and Clark-Brenner's doing a good job on Dante.
Yeah.
That was always going to be a wash, I think. But Cousinard said absolutely. I mean, he had 40 against South Carolina. He had 40. So that guy's on a freaking heater right now, and Creighton's got to figure out something against him.
Yeah, right now, looking at your leading scores, you mentioned Jermaine Cousinard. He's got 15 points right now. Nafali Dante's got 8. He comes in second before Oregon. And then, it's been Ryan Kalkbrenner's been so solid, as you mentioned, Connor, inside. He leads the Jays with 12 points. And then you've got Baylor Shireman and Trey Alexander, each with 8. I love the start that Trey Alexander got off to early on, too. I always think when you can start getting some of that early production, and it was vintage Trey, too. You got the mid-range jumper going right out of the gate. Then he hits a 3. He's had some really good looks, too. And again, this is a similar conversation you and I had halftime of the Akron game. Ashworth's had some really good looks. They haven't fallen. He's another guy that I'm kind of looking for in the second half because he's getting a lot of open looks. If he knocks some of those down, to me, that's going to be the difference of what keeps this thing tight or what opens us up for Creighton. Because I don't see, Connor, any part of this game where Oregon is locking Creighton down so much what they want to do defensively. In fact, we saw right before the first half, they went to straight man-to-man because they could not get that matchup zone where they wanted it. So if you look at a guy like Ashworth, if he's knocking down those shots, those are going to be there. I think it's curtains for Creighton. Or I think Creighton makes it curtains for Oregon in that situation.
Yeah, they definitely have a matchup advantage. That's for sure. And remember, they only like to throw in that matchup zone, kind of a 1-3-1 type of deal, basically, after they make it. So that's kind of where Creighton needs to find it figured out on the defensive end a little bit. But I think you make a great point on Ashworth. That's the guy. Because he's going to keep getting open looks. He's got a bunch of them in the first half. Got that last one to go, which was a great sign in the second half. But he's going to keep on getting those. They're locking up Trey. They're making him kind of skittish a little bit. And this is now 2 games of the NCAA tournament with and Creighton's never been the type of team that's like, hey, we got to have a guy go for 30 or whatever. Baylor's your A1 guy.
Yeah.
And he's your first team all-conference guy. And he's just been, I don't know if passive is the right word, but we're used to one type of Baylor Shireman, and he's got that energy, and he's kind of a showman. He's blowing kisses to everybody. I just haven't seen that. And he's got lost a couple times on defense. So I think, just judging off of the mood of the team and the mood of Mac in the first half, I think they're getting a pretty stern talking to in the locker room right now would be my guess. So I hope that kind of jolts them to life a little bit in the second half. I don't think they're sleepwalking. But there was just a couple spots where they had really mental, lapses, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I think there was a couple times when they broke to go to media timeout where Mac is getting after Trey, Mac is getting after Baylor. And so, I think they're probably, getting after it a little bit in the locker room right now would be my guess. So hopefully that kind of jolts them, they get something set going, in the first minute or two here and kind of really set the tone. If they could get a quick 6-0 spurt coming out, that would make you feel a lot better. But yeah, it's tight. It's nervous. It's it's the NCAA tournament, and that's where we're at right now.
Well, and we know the expectations right now. This is the other thing that always makes me nervous in these situations, whether we're talking about Creighton, whether we're talking about anybody who's a higher seed, and you're going up against a double-digit seed. And I know Oregon doesn't have the feel of that because of the program itself, because of Dana Altman itself. You always feel like, though, if you're one of those double-digit seeds, you're in this spot, you feel like all the pressure's on the other team. You feel like all the pressure's on Creighton. I don't love that for them. I'm with you, though. I think you bring up a really good point, though. We talked to Ryan Miller after the game on Thursday, and we asked what the message was at halftime, and he said there was really no panic. I'm with you. The body language of Mac, especially in some of those defensive breakdowns, was a lot more animated. But even Dana Altman too. You can tell. You know how much this means for both of these coaches for obvious reasons to get to the Sweet 16, but also a little bit of that history back and forth. There's a lot there. I'm really curious.
Yeah, Nick, sorry. He talked about that unfamiliarity because they just don't see a team. I mean, they don't see a team like Creighton, and Creighton does. Like I said, Oregon's kind of built a little bit personnel-wise like a Big East team. I think Dante would be one of the better bigs in the Big East, and Cousinard would be one of the better guards too. But they're kind of built like that, where they're going to get a lot of that production from those guys. So Creighton's at least seen that. They understand kind of what they're trying to do to them a little bit. But they were bit twice this year by Devin Carter. Yeah. Like Devin, if there's a comp, like that's probably it. It's going to go up in volume and it's going to go up. So, that's sort of the comp there. At least there is some familiarity for Creighton in that regard. For Oregon, they're trying to find it. But like I said, you got those two dudes and you got something going on.
All right, real quickly before we let you go, we got the numbers. Field goal percentage, Oregon shot 48%, 40 beyond the arc. For Creighton, it was 37 overall, 38, I should say, overall, 38%. They were just 26% beyond the arc. Gave you the leading scores right now. Connor, I know we've kind of danced around it too, but second half, what are you kind of looking for out of both of these teams, but mainly for Creighton to get to the Sweet 16?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, they got to make shots on offense. But well, I don't know if we dance around it, but like we were talking about it for the entire last 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Make Cousinard uncomfortable. He's been way too comfortable. Dante is always going to be, I think, just canceled out by a call credit. And so I think they'll do a good job there, but they got to find a way against Cousinard. And then offensively, get some shots to go do what you're doing. It feels good, but it's definitely not time to relax. That's for sure. By the way, what time is it? It's 11 here. All right.
It's 10 o'clock right now. Yeah, we just got to 10 o'clock right now. Hey, good day for Creighton Athletics, by the way. Baseball beat Stanford. Women advance into the round of 32 as well. So let's see if Creighton can make it 3 in a row today for Creighton Athletics.
All right. Well, enjoy your evening. This will be a nervous second half again, so that's where we're at.
Late night Saturday, wouldn't have it any other way. Connor Happer, live in Pittsburgh, Nick in Omaha. We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for tuning in.